Welcome to the martech.org podcast.
Welcome to the martech.org podcast. I'm Mike Pastor, editorial director at Martech. When you think about a business crisis, like a data breach, for example, or maybe a system failure that impacts millions of consumers, you probably think about the CEO or the PR agency when you think about the response. But what's the role of the CMO, and by extension, the marketing team, when there's a crisis? After all, they play a huge role in the customer experience and the customer relationships, and it's the customers who often bear the brunt when there's a crisis. To discuss the role of the CMO in times of crisis, I'm joined by Jessica Shapiro, CMO of LiveRamp. Welcome, Jessica.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is something that we touched on a bit back at our spring Martech conference. The ownership of the customer experience and customer relationships, it can be a little bit all over the place from one organization to another, and even within some organizations. Why is this potentially the moment for marketing leaders to step up in times of crisis?
Great question. When it comes to crisis, marketing should be at the helm. And it's for a few reasons. One is that a crisis is all about communications and swift, smart communications. And that is the expertise of the marketing team. Second, marketing can sit in the center of the organization and gather information from all different groups to synthesize the right response plan. And third, a strong marketing team has the insights about customers and what their customers in their company are going to want to hear. And so I think CMOs, marketing teams need to be leading in crisis. And I do think that at a lot of companies, that is what's happening. Even if they are not the spokespeople, they are the ones pulling the puppet strings in the background.
Right. So a crisis comes up unexpectedly. It's not, you can kind of run a playbook and you can plan for it, but you don't know usually when it's going to happen. How can a marketing leader's team step up to support them when it comes to customer relationships? And how does it change the things that they're already delivering to their leadership team on a daily basis?
When a crisis happens, the marketing team goes into action. First, it's important to prepare for that crisis before it even begins. A strong marketing team has a crisis comms plan that plays through the expected scenarios and also some of the unexpected scenarios and has a clear order of operations for who's going to be, who do we talk to first, how we're going to get statements signed off, where we're going to push our communications. When a crisis happens, it is all hands on deck. I like to start with all hands on deck, divide up the responsibilities, and then a portion of the marketing team can go back to business as usual. But so many people are involved in a crisis. There are the communicators that need to craft the statement. There are the marketers that need to go investigate what's happening. There are the marketers that need to go and canvas all the social media platforms and the communication channels to make sure they know what customers are saying, and then be able to regularly and transparently and with urgency push out those communications. So I find that it's an all hands on deck exercise, and then you start peeling back people to go back to their regular marketing work as the crisis gets more under control.
Yeah, as we said before, it's the customers who really feel the brunt when there's some sort of a crisis. Can you give us an example of how a CMO can help guide an organization through a crisis where the relationships with the customers really need some attention?
Yeah. One of the recent examples that has happened is the Alaska Airlines 737 MAX with the door flying off.
Yep.
Really unenviable situation. And I do know, living in Seattle and having many connections to Alaska Airlines, and being a loyal Alaska Airlines fan myself, I know that the head of marketing and the marketing team were leading the path there. They were working through the night. It happened on a Friday, developing the crisis communications plan and getting out there quickly with clear information and having a lot of empathy. I think that this is a really important thing when it comes back to the customers, knowing that when a crisis happens, particularly when it's about sympathy, that's not the time to point fingers. That's not the time to try to solve everything. Really, what does our customer need to hear now? And for Alaska Airlines, they knew that they needed to communicate that people were safe. They needed to communicate that services were ready, prepared to talk to people, support people, and they needed to get their messages out there quickly with a tone of empathy.
Right. And it's an interesting example because it says so much about modern business. There's a huge supply chain there. Who made the door? Who made the airplane? And the brand is Alaska, right? People think the door goes off and it's Alaska, but there's a whole lot. You don't want to explain to people at that time, well, you see, Boeing makes the airplane and this person made the door, right?
Exactly. I think that is true. It's really keying into what do customers need to hear now, and hearing the supply chain was not what they needed to hear. Also using all the communication mediums. The CEO came out with a very heartfelt video as one of their communication channels. So really thinking about how do we want to communicate with our customers? And it may be the CMO communicating, but it is the CMO and the marketing team behind the scenes proposing what the message should be, prepping the CEO for that message, making sure it's coming across in all those channels, and that the lines are open with customers. I believe that with a marketing team, customers are the most important. And if we need to, we get on the phone with customers. We do things that we wouldn't normally do in an average day. But the most important thing is making sure customers feel heard, feel supported, and that we are attending to their issues.
All right. Yeah. And you mentioned the media channels. There's more of them now than there's ever been before. So
yes,
you got to cover them all, right?
You got to cover them all because customers are everywhere.
That's true. So we're coming up quickly on 2025. What do you think we're going to be talking about in 2025 in the world of marketing? What are you looking forward to in 2025 when it comes to marketing?
There's a lot I'm looking forward to. Being a company that focuses on data and getting data to marketers so that they understand how their marketing is performing and how they can optimize their campaigns for the best return on ad investment. I know that data will continue to be a huge theme and a tool that is empowering marketers. The flip side of that is that regulation and law around customer privacy, those laws are changing quickly. And that is good. We want to protect customer privacy, but that requires marketers and companies to respond to the quickly changing laws and regulations. So I think data and how we protect customers is going to be a huge theme. And there's this great part for customers because they're going to be protected, but also marketers are going to be able to deliver the most relevant experiences to them because they're going to have enough first-party data to understand who their customers are.
And we've come full circle because if you make a mistake with the customer data, you will find yourself in a crisis that you'll have to.
Very, very well said.
All right. Jessica Shapiro, CMO of LiveRamp. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to the martech.org podcast. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at martech.org/newsletters.